Oh, no way. Oh, it just makes sense for the refs tonight, so I'm not surprised. Wow. Wow, I could have got ejected. I should have been a little safer in the second half. Okay, well, guess I have some fines coming my way. And a flagrant. Wow. Well, the refs were interesting, but I'm not going to say anything else because obviously I got probably $1,000 worth of fines coming my way, but I was just trying to get the rebound, and I didn't know I got a technical foul, but thanks for letting me know. I appreciate it. Okay, next question.
The refs were interesting. That is the sentence right there. That is the whole thing. 2 words, doing the work of 2000. Because when Caitlin Clark, the most scrutinized, most watched, most talked about player on the planet of professional women's basketball right now, sits in a post-game press conference and describes the officiating as interesting, what she is communicating is not a review. She is not filling out a customer satisfaction survey. She is not giving you a neutral descriptor. She is standing at the edge of a cliff, looking directly into the camera and telling you everything you need to know with a smile on her face and fire in her eyes, all while staying precisely 1 word away from the kind of additional fines that would make this the most expensive press conference of her career. That is elite. That is genius level media navigation, and that single word, interesting, is going to live rent-free in every WNBA conversation for the rest of this week. My name is AJ LaMaestro. You are locked in to AJ Street Hub, and today we are going places that most channels do not have the range to reach. We are talking about Caitlin Clark's return from injury. We are talking about the Indiana Fever winning back-to-back games in the middle of one of the most chaotic and controversial weeks this franchise has had in recent memory. We are talking about a technical foul that the player who received it did not know she had, and we are talking about an officiating sequence involving Janelle Salon that has the entire basketball internet asking very loud, very legitimate questions. And before we go one single word further, if you are new to this channel, if this is your first time here, the subscribe button is right there, and we are grinding toward 1,000 subscribers, and every single person watching this video is part of that mission. 1,000 subscribe right now. Do not wait. And then let's get into every layer of this beautiful disaster of a story together. Let me tell you what makes this particular week in Indiana Fever history so genuinely extraordinary to analyze. Because on the surface, if you just look at the win column, it is a good week. 2 wins back to back, one without Caitlin Clark, one with her returning from a back issue and going for 22 points and 9 assists. Good week, right? Box it up, ship it, see you next game. Except that framing leaves out roughly 90% of what actually happened this week, and I am constitutionally incapable of leaving out 90% of a story this rich, because the wins happened inside a full-scale organizational hurricane. The Indiana Fever received a formal warning from the WNBA League office for injury reporting failures. Their head coach Stephanie White had press conference moments that, as reported by multiple credible journalists covering this team, contained contradictions that reporters went on record to challenge publicly. The injury situation surrounding Clark's availability became a national sports media story in its own right. And then Clark came back, played through a back issue she had been managing, and performed at a level that made history. And still somehow the most talked about moment from Friday night's game is the technical foul she did not know she had. If you tried to write this as a fictional sports drama, your editor would send it back and tell you to dial it down, because no one would believe it was realistic. Let us start with the basketball, because the basketball is actually where the best parts of this story live when you look at it properly. The Indiana Fever defeated the Golden State Valkyries 90-82. But the score alone does not tell you what you need to know, which is that this was a second half comeback. This was not a team that went up early and protected a lead. This was a team that found something in the middle of a fight and came out the other side with a W. That distinction matters because it tells you about the character of this group under pressure. And this team has been under pressure from every direction all week long. The organizational noise around them has been relentless. The criticism has been loud. The national media scrutiny has been intense in a way that would distract most professional sports organizations into losing their competitive focus entirely. And the Fever are out here winning games in the second half of close contests. That deserves to be said plainly and with full credit. And the person at the center of it all, performing through all of it, elevated by none of it, and distracted by none of it, is Caitlin Clark. I need to walk you through what she actually did on the court Friday night, because the drama that followed has threatened to overshadow a performance that in any other week would be the only story anyone was talking about. 22 points, 9 assists, 2 rebounds, 32 minutes. That is an MVP caliber line on any night in any game. But layer in the context and it becomes something else entirely. This is a player who missed the previous game with back stiffness, who was listed as probable leading into Friday's game, which, by the way, is what proper injury reporting looks like. And the fact that we are noting that as an achievement tells you everything about the week the organization had and was only officially cleared to play on the morning of the game itself. She woke up on game day not knowing for certain that she was going to be on the floor that night. And then she went out and posted 22 and 9 in a comeback win, as has been widely reported across multiple sports media outlets covering the WNBA this season. That performance also extended one of the most extraordinary statistical streaks in league history, making her the first player ever to record 20 points and 5 assists in each of her first 5 games of a season. First player ever in the entire history of this league. Nobody has done that before. Not any of the names that get dropped in all-time great conversations. Not any of the legends who built this sport into what it is. Caitlin Clark, 5 games in with a sore back, coming off a missed game, cleared to play on the morning of the game, is making WNBA history. And she got a technical foul she did not know about. Now we have to go here. We have to live in this for a moment because the full story of this technical foul situation is one of the most genuinely remarkable sequences of events I have encountered covering sports at this level. And the more details emerge, the more remarkable it becomes. Here is what we know. During the game, Golden State Valkyries player Janelle Solon shoved Caitlin Clark in the back. Not a routine basketball play, a shove in the back of a player with a documented league-reported back injury that had kept her out of the previous game and had every reporter in the building monitoring her availability right up until game time. Clark reacted. By all accounts, she got close to Solon in a way that was aggressive and drew attention. Solon responded by flinging her hand in the exchange, and in the heat of that moment, a technical foul was called against Clark, not against the player who initiated the physical contact, against the player who was contacted. And I, AJ LaMaestro, am going to say this as directly and as clearly as I can. That sequence demands scrutiny. I am not making accusations. I am not suggesting a conspiracy. I am saying that a sequence in which you physically shove someone, they react to being physically shoved, and the person who reacted is the one who walks away with the technical foul, is a sequence that every honest basketball observer has a right to question. Context matters in officiating. The full picture of what led to a reaction matters. And if the officiating crew processed that sequence by only seeing the reaction and not seeing what caused it, then that is a process failure that needs to be examined. But now here is where the story takes the turn that made the entire basketball internet lose its collective mind. Clark did not know she had the technical. She found out in the post-game press conference. A reporter, not an official, not a teammate, not her head coach on the sideline. A reporter told Caitlin Clark that she had received a technical foul during a game she had just finished playing. And I want you to really sit with what that means for a moment. She played the entire second half of a close game, a game her team eventually won in a comeback, without any knowledge that she was one additional outburst away from being ejected. One more reaction, one more emotional moment in a physical, chippy, competitive game, and she would have been out, gone, watching the fourth quarter from somewhere that was not the basketball floor, and she did not know the franchise player of the Indiana Fever was carrying that kind of risk exposure in the second half of a game and had zero awareness of it. And then, and this is the layer that Stephanie White's post-game revelation added to the whole situation, the head coach of the Indiana Fever also did not know. As confirmed through the post-game reporting, White said she was surprised to learn about the technical, that she assumed the officials would have communicated it to the bench, and that the reason she was not managing Clark's behavior in the second half with the urgency the situation required was because she had no information that the situation existed. She did not know her best player was one technical away from ejection. She could not protect Clark from that risk because she did not know the risk was there. Think about the coaching decisions that get made in real time in the second half of closed basketball games. Think about the moments where a head coach might pull a star player aside and say, hey, dial it back, you're on the edge. Stephanie White could not have that conversation because nobody told her there was an edge to be on. That is an officiating communication failure that goes beyond inconvenient. That is a failure that could have directly cost the Indiana Fever their best player in the second half of a game they were trying to win. Now, Clark's response to all of this in the post-game press conference. I have to talk about it at length because it is legitimately one of the most entertaining, most intelligent, most perfectly calibrated athlete media moments of this entire WNBA season, and I want to give it the full analysis it deserves. The sequence of her reaction when the reporter informs her about the technical foul is a masterpiece of genuine human expression happening in real time on camera. First comes the confusion. Oh, did I get a technical? Delivered with the energy of someone who just got an unexpected notification on their phone and is not sure if it is real. Then comes the processing. Oh, no way. As the information starts to connect with her memory of the game and she begins reconstructing what happened, then comes the retrospective alarm. I should have been a little bit safer in the second half, as the full weight of what she did not know lands on her in front of a room full of reporters, and then comes the financial acknowledgement. Okay, well, I guess I have some fines coming my way. Delivered with just enough resignation and just enough humor to signal that she has done this calculation before and she knows what it costs. And then the line, the refs were interesting. Those three words wrapped in a smile, surrounded by the explanation that she was not going to say anything else because she had approximately $1,000 in fines already heading her way. And she laughed. She laughed openly and genuinely, and with the kind of ease that comes from a person who is fully secure in who they are and fully comfortable with the chaos that follows them around. And as AJ LaMaestro, I want to give this moment the recognition it deserves because it is a masterclass in navigating public attention as a professional athlete. She communicated exactly what she thought about the officiating without saying a single word that would generate additional consequences beyond what she had already acknowledged. Interesting is doing Olympic level heavy lifting in that sentence. It is not a compliment. It is not a neutral descriptor. It is a precisely chosen word that signals dissatisfaction in the most diplomatically efficient packaging available to her. She said everything she needed to say and stopped exactly one word before the line that would have cost her more money than she already owed. That is wisdom, that is star intelligence, and that is the kind of authentic, unscripted personality that you genuinely cannot manufacture or coach. I also want to spend real time on the broader context of this technical foul situation, because I think the most important question here is not whether Clark should have been assessed a technical. Reasonable people can debate where the line is on player reactions in physical moments. The most important question is why neither the player nor the head coach knew about it. In professional basketball, technical fouls have consequences that directly affect game management in real time. When a player receives a technical, that information needs to reach the coaching staff immediately. It is not optional information. It is not supplementary context. It is essential data that coaches use to make decisions about playing time, substitution patterns, and how they manage their most important players in high-stakes moments. If the information did not reach Stephanie White's bench, if it did not reach Clark herself clearly enough to register, then something in the officiating communication process broke down in a way that directly affected the management of this basketball game. And that is worth a serious conversation from the people who run this league, because the Indiana Fever should not have been operating blind to that risk in the second half of a close game. Now let me pull back and look at the full picture of this Fever team this week, because I think the complete arc here says something genuinely important about this franchise and this moment. The Indiana Fever received a formal league warning for injury reporting failures. Their head coach had a press conference week that generated headlines for the wrong reasons. Multiple credible journalists went on record to challenge the transparency of the organization's communication about Clark's health situation. All of that happened. It is documented. It is confirmed. And I have been clear and will continue to be clear. Those organizational failures are real, and they needed to be addressed by someone in a position of authority in this league and in this franchise. The WNBA warning was appropriate. The accountability was appropriate. These things matter because they affect fan trust, media trust, and the broader credibility of the league at a moment when the WNBA is experiencing a level of mainstream attention it has never seen before in its history. And simultaneously, holding all of that accountability in one hand, the Indiana Fever won 2 consecutive basketball games, one without Clark and one with her returning from injury and going for 22-9 while quietly making WNBA history. And their star player handled the post-game chaos of the technical foul revelation with more grace, more humor, and more intelligence than most athletes twice her experience level would have managed. Those two things are both True. The organizational communication failures are real, and the team's on-court performance has been genuinely impressive. The coaching staff needs to do better, and the players are already operating at an elite level. Holding the complexity of that simultaneously is what honest sports analysis requires, and that is what we do on AJ Street Hub every single day. What this Fever team needs now, and I say this as someone who has been following this story very closely, is for the people making organizational and communication decisions to start performing at the same level as the players on the court. Because right now, there is a visible gap between how the players are performing and how the organization is presenting itself publicly. Clark is putting up historic numbers through back injuries and technical fouls she does not know about. She is winning games in second half comebacks. She is handling the most difficult post-game questions with disarming honesty and perfectly calibrated wit. She is carrying this team and this brand at an elite level under extraordinarily difficult circumstances. And the front office and coaching staff communication side of this organization has spent the week generating headlines that nobody asked for and that required a formal league intervention to address. That gap needs to close. Because if the talent on this roster, and it is real talent, real depth, real competitive capability, is going to reach its ceiling this season, the people running the organization need to match the standard that the players are already setting. And Caitlin Clark is going to keep setting that standard whether the people around her do or not. That much is already clear. She is going to wake up on game day not knowing if her back will cooperate, clear herself by morning, play 32 minutes, post 22-9, make WNBA history for the 5th consecutive game, absorb physical contact from an opposing player, react, receive a technical foul, complete the second half without knowing she was one exchange away from ejection, win the game, walk into the press conference, find out about the technical from a reporter, laugh about the fines coming her way, describe the officiating as interesting with the most strategically precise smile in the history of sports diplomacy, and say next question with the ease of a player who has accepted that the chaos is just part of the landscape she plays in. She is going to do all of that because that is who she is. And the WNBA, all of it, the league, the other teams, the officials, the organizations, is going to have to figure out how to operate at the level she is already operating at. Because she is not slowing down. She is not dialing it back. She is not shrinking to fit a space that was not built for her. She is expanding the space every single game, 5 games in, and still making history. The refs were interesting. Next question. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is everything I have for you today. And you know exactly what I need from you before you close this video. First, smash that like button right now, not in a minute, right now. Every single like pushes this content to more people who deserve to be in this conversation and this community. Second, get into those comments and give me your most unfiltered take. Do you think the technical foul call was justified after Salon initiated the physical contact? Do you think the fact that neither Clark nor White knew about the technical during the game is an officiating failure that needs a league response? And most importantly, do you believe this Indiana Fever team, with all the organizational chaos swirling around them, has what it takes to be a genuine threat this WNBA season? I want every hot take, every disagreement, every contrarian opinion down in those comments, because that conversation is what this channel is built on. And if you are not yet subscribed to AJ Street Hub, we are locked in on reaching 1,000 subscribers, and you are the person who gets us there. One click, subscribe, join this community, because this is where the no filter, no sugarcoating, straight to the truth sports conversation happens every day. I am AJ LaMaestro. We never stop. Let's go.